On a warm evening, the Siesta Key Drum Circle inspires hundreds of free spirits. But for Troy Roberts, it is spirits that inspire him.
I go to the drum circle and I usually sit off to the side with a little bit of my rum and listen to the music and watch the sunset.
Siesta Key, sunset, and the circle became key ingredients for a business idea.
The company name is Drum Circle Distilling, and the name of the rum is Siesta Key Rum.
In an unassuming warehouse in an industrial park resides the Gulf Coast's only rum distillery. Sound familiar?
Well, except we're legal, and you won't go blind, so those big differences.
Inside, technology meets tradition. The glistening stainless steel tanks, just steps from the aging oak barrels.
The beauty of this is that it's science and art. It's not, you can't come up with a specific formula when it comes down to it, and we're doing a batch of rum. You have to taste it and see exactly where it's at to make any tweaks you might need to make, any changes.
Here, no one is counting the minutes till quitting time.
And we live by this motto, it's not drinking on the job, it's research.
But why rum?
Number one, I like rum. Number two, I have 4 young boys, so I drink rum.
But seriously, Troy had other reasons for starting a craft distillery.
I wanted a product that was tangible. I spent my whole career doing software and internet, which was fun. But I want something that my friends and relatives actually understand what it is. I can give them a bottle and say, this is what I do.
Troy grew up in Sarasota, went to Riverview High. After graduation, left the Gulf Coast for the great beyond.
I ended up in Michigan for a while. I was in California for a long time, and I got to travel all over the world.
It took years for him to realize something was missing.
I think as you mature, you start to understand what's important in life, and a lot of the times the things that you've left behind are things that you want to go back to.
So he returned to the Gulf Coast to start a new venture, and he ended up adding another aged ingredient to the mix, a childhood friend, Tom Clark.
Got a little burned out the last 9 years working for a .com company in Seattle. So I quit, came back to the beach, and sat on it for a while, and then hooked up with Troy, and here I am, mopping floors.
We're great partners. We work very well together, and we bring totally different skill sets.
Well, I deal with the boring stuff.
Which both agree isn't much different than high school.
When we were in high school, Tom was the responsible one. He was the one who kept the rest of us out of trouble, and I was probably the one getting us more into trouble.
3 years later, the project Troy poured his heart into has come to fruition. The key to its success, family.
My parents have both been a part of this. My mother did most of the initial design of the label. And my dad, who's very handy with woodworking, helped me build out most of the distillery.
That's it. You can't see no more.
Even today, it's still all hands on deck.
I do whatever they need. If it's labels or painting or whatever, yeah. I just like being involved.
Drum Circle Distilling can produce about 4,000 bottles of 80-proof white rum each month. The ingredients, pure and simple. The process, more complex.
This is our mash tank. This is where we pour in 275 gallons of organically grown Florida molasses. That 275 gallons of molasses will produce about 900 bottles of rum. This is one of our fermentation tanks. We take the molasses from the mash tank and we put it into our fermentation tanks. We add yeast to it, and yeast turns it into carbon dioxide and rum. The still is the heart of the operation. This is where we heat up the fermented wash, and the rum that is in there evaporates off, goes up through the top of the still, turns into vapor, works its way over to the column, where they make a lot of contact with copper. The copper cleans up the rum, takes out the harsh tasting elements, and the rum works its way up through the top, goes down the condenser where it's turned back into a liquid form. At that point, we can taste it, and we can tell when we get to the very good part of the rum.
More than 70 Gulf Coast establishments have embraced the rum's local ties.
We've gotten good reviews, and people really seem to appreciate a local product made from local ingredients by local people.
Mixing business with pleasure, something Drum Circle Distilling enjoys but knows its limit.
We don't want to be Bacardi. We don't want to be Captain Morgan. We want to keep it fun, which means keeping it small.
Savoring life before last call, a dream that has come full circle in the Siesta Key Rum Circle.